Hello and welcome to episode 30 of The Closing Track, the official podcast of AnotherAscendingLark.com, where the faith that you believe collides with the music that you love. I am Austin, your host, joined as always with...
Brett, the guy who is now out of Remington Red.
You sure burned through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, last night I intended to just get another pint of it, but I noticed that it was a little bit flatter than before. So I was like, I'm going to have to kill the rest of this growler or it's not going to be very good later on.
See, I was wondering about that. I was wondering how the growler would impact the carbonation of the beer after a while.
Well, the thing is, like when I first opened it and drank out of it, it had been over 24 hours and it was still fine, but there also wasn't much room left in there for the carbonation to escape from. When I opened it now, since it was already down early yesterday, since it was already down a pint, I heard a lot of CO2 escape. So I think, just from my observations, a growler is good to hold completely full, but once you drink out of it, you better drink it all.
Drink it quickly. Don't get drunk, but drink it quickly.
Yes.
And whatever combination best works for you. So you're all out of it now, though?
Yeah, which makes me sad.
That was a really good one. I'm not a red beer guy, but I thoroughly enjoyed that Remington Red. That was came from Bricktown Brewery in Oklahoma. You know, those darn Okies.
They make good beer.
They do make good beer, but they can't sell it because their laws there are far more restrictive than what they are here.
Yeah.
We got a great episode planned for you. We've got several reviews to catch up from, and then we also are going to address a little bit of what's going on in the For Today camp. As some of you have probably already heard plenty about this and don't care to hear anymore. We would have talked about it last week, but we had a special Record Store Day episode, and it was a great episode, and it was a lot of fun. So we will definitely be addressing that. But first, let's get into a little bit of news. If you want to contact us, you can get a hold of us on Facebook. Just search for Another Ascending Lark. If you want to find us on Twitter, the handle is AALblog. You can send us an email at anotherascendinglark@gmail.com, and of course, anotherascendinglark.com, where you can get the show notes and you can read a bunch of other really, really cool stuff. And you can also find the show on YouTube if you want to listen to the show there, or you want to pass it along to your friends. Just go to YouTube, search for The Closing Track, and you will be able to get whatever episode you want. They're all up there. So, first and foremost, since we did Record Store Day last week, Record Store Day 2015 was a massive success. Further solidifying the idea that this is not just a fad. The numbers that were coming in and that several news outlets reported that a fad just doesn't produce these kinds of numbers. The Record Store Day set a 12-year sales high for indies in particular, which, I mean, hello, that's... What fad or trend is just going to do that? Billboard in particular reported that the independent sector counted 532,000 album scans, or 21.5% of total physical album sales. So basically, 1 out of every 5 physical CD purchases that weekend was a vinyl. That's huge. Yep. That's pretty dang big. And then the week prior, it was sitting at just under 12%. So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Meaning that if you missed out on Record Store Day this year, start saving your pennies, start saving your money, and plan on doing it next year. Our friend John, who you got to hear in the last episode, is moving away from Shawnee, so we will have to improvise this for Record Store Day next year if we decide to go back to Oklahoma.
There's always Hastings.
Yeah, but...
It's not the same.
No, it's not the same. I mean, I didn't post many of the pictures that we took at the trolley stop and then at guest room. But Hastings is great. I mean, most of my vinyl has come from Hastings. Most of the newer vinyl that I have has come from Hastings, but it's just not a record store. It's not meant to be a record store. So I love Hastings, but no, it's not a record store. The Billboard article goes on to talk about two really well-known indie retailers, Austin, Texas, Waterloo Records, and Denver's Twist and Shout. And both of those stores reported that it was the biggest sales day they've ever had. Twist and Shout owner said that it was our most successful record store day. It was our most successful day, period. It was the equivalent of doing 12 to 15 regular business days, including weekends in a 12-hour day.
Dang.
It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's a jack ton of money. And then the owner of the Waterloo record said that Record Store Day 2015 was the best sales day ever in Waterloo's 33-plus year history. I mean,
that's intense.
That's insane. Again, is this just a trend? Is this just a fad?
Yes.
Brett, you're fired.
Okay.
I mean, that's become the punchline now. Anytime Brett does something, and I'm just, instead of face palming, I just tell him that he's fired, and then I just imply, okay, you're rehired. You know, you can come back to work now, even though you don't get paid.
Yet.
Even though none of us get paid. So that's it as far as Record Store Day goes. We had a great time. I can't wait for the next Record Store Day. But Brett, what's going on as far as Queens of the Stone Age? I heard something in the other day that they're doing something nice for people.
Yes. They recently finished 2 years of touring, which is kind of intense.
It's a massive tour.
So of course,
that album was really good.
Yeah. So right now they're on a hiatus, which is very understandable.
More than justified.
But Josh Homme of Queen of the Stone Age isn't just sitting around. He has teamed up with members of Jimmy Eat World and Paramore to form what's called the Sweet Stuff Foundation.
Can I just say, when I first read that, I read it as Sweetums Foundation.
So did I.
I was like, wait, what?
That was my first thought, is that they did a Parks and Recreation reference.
I was like, the Sweetums Foundation? Like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It does seem like a very weird name for their intention, but they provide assistance to career musicians, recording engineers, and their families struggling with illnesses and disabilities. Their mission statement is as follows. The mission of the Sweet Stuff Foundation is to help our musical community and their families with the vital elements often overlooked during periods of illness and disability. Things like transportation to medical treatment, assistance with childcare and tuition, income assistance, the last wishes of a lifetime, and special treatments not covered by insurance.
Keep going.
The healing power of music is also a vital form of preventative medicine. That's why the Sweet Stuff Foundation's two-prong approach is also committed to providing assistance for music lessons, instruments, and musical collaborations for children to help foster an atmosphere of creativity and introduce a healthy outlet via music so the Sweet Stuff will continue for generations to come.
I still think it's the Sweetums Foundation.
Yes.
It still just sounds like the Sweetums Foundation. Although, this is actually a pretty interesting approach to a charity, and hopefully they'll open it up for maybe some other bands to jump on board and maybe make this a multi-market collaboration. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I mean, especially because the goal here is not. It doesn't seem like it's unique or specific to one particular part of the market, as evidenced by the fact that they're joined up with Paramore.
Yeah. I did think that was a very weird combination of bands, but whatever.
Queens of the Stone Age, you got Jimmy Eat World, and then Paramore. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
One of these just doesn't belong.
And apparently the Sweet Stuff Foundation was formed back in 2013, but just now is starting to get publicity thanks to the Foo Fighters, primarily.
Anything that the Foo Fighters touches turns to gold. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. That's false. Sonic Highways.
Almost anything.
Almost anything they touch turns to gold, unless it's Sonic Highways, and then it just turns to crap.
Yeah.
And then it just turns to awful whatever. The sweet stuff, the Sweetums Foundation. If you don't watch Parks and Rec, can we just plug in a reco for Parks and Rec right here?
We might as well.
We might as well plug in a reco for Parks and Rec. If you love The Office, the American Office, you'll love Parks and Rec. I personally think Parks and Rec is a better show than The Office, but
yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about that. It is very different. It was originally intended to be a spin-off of The Office, but then they canceled that because they didn't want an Office clone. And for those Guardians of the Galaxy fans out there, you get to see where Star-Lord began his career.
And it's so weird watching him and then in Parks and Rec and then watching him in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just like, you're the same person?
Yeah, when I got my vinyl for the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack and saw Star-Lord on there, I'm like, why is Andy holding a blaster?
Yeah. So Parks and Rec. If you haven't seen it, the first season sucks. I'll just say that the first season really sucked. The first season is an Office clone. It's shot like an Office clone. It feels like an Office clone. It's not all that funny, honestly. The second season, that's when it starts getting good.
I think that you might be a little bit too hard on the first season.
I hated the first season.
I didn't hate it. It didn't suck, but I mean, it did definitely feel like a clone of The Office, and they did need to do revamping of it to continue the series, which they did.
Which they did, and now it's turned into something I think has surpassed The Office. We should do a show someday on those things. So we talked. I don't know how much about TIDAL we've talked about on the show as compared to talking about it online, but. The new streaming service from JD, the streaming service that I've briefly flirted with adopting just because it's got a ridiculous streaming rate. Yeah, apparently it's already a flop. So that was fast.
Yeah, that was really fast.
That was really fast. I mean, the service isn't closing down by any means, but it's definitely closing down significantly quicker than we were expecting it to. It was originally doing really well in the iPhone top 20 download chart as far as the app goes, but now it is way gone out of the 700, out of the top 700s. And not only that, Spotify and Pandora, the apps for both of those, are 3 and 4 on the U.S. iPhone app charts at the same time.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened in a very long time. That hasn't happened in quite a long time. Part of it is because, and I had this thought running the whole entire time I was watching the TIDAL launch thing, whatever. You know, they're complaining about, you know, artists not getting paid, you know, that the streaming services model doesn't necessarily have the best interest of the artists at mind and that we need to pay them more. Things I totally agree with and we've talked about before. And then who do they bring out? They bring out the wealthiest artists, air quotes, for a few of them, on the planet. Like the richest musicians on the planet.
Yeah, like no one's going to feel sorry for Nicki Minaj not getting paid more millions of dollars.
Well, she doesn't need to have millions of dollars anyway. That's a waste of money right there. I mean, sorry, you can do better. You can, until you make good music, you're not getting my money, Nicki. But no, somebody, and I can't remember where I read this, suggested, you know, it would have been cool if Jay-Z or, you know, whoever was speaking that, like, had handpicked, like, artists that, you know, he had been following, whatever, like younger struggling artists that he had been following, brought them up there and said, you see these guys, they want to make music, but streaming services can't help them do that. My service will help ensure these guys, you know, have a future.
Yeah, that would have definitely gained more positive publicity for TIDAL, and it would have jump-started their careers. If Jay-Z says, these guys are good artists, people are going to buy their music.
If you have the Jay-Z stamp of approval, you're set.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very rare and elusive I wonder if Jay-Z would give us a stamp of approval.
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think I'd want it anyway. I mean, I don't know if I'd want Jay-Z's stamp of approval. But for an artist who's trying to get into the industry, I mean, what better endorsement can you get than an endorsement from Jay-Z? I mean, as far as big name endorsement goes, that it doesn't get much bigger than that. So, if you're using TIDAL, we'd love to hear like what your experience has been with it. I haven't been able to do anything with it, but if you've been using TIDAL, send us an email or tweet us or Facebook us or whatever, and let us know what your experience of it has been. I'm really curious to see what people are thinking of it. Nobody that I know uses it.
And this actually reminds me, did you hear the rumors about the new Daft Punk album?
No, I didn't.
Supposedly, nothing's completely confirmed, but there have been rumors going around that Daft Punk was going to come out with a new album, and they would, of course, sell it in physical copies, but the plan supposedly was that they would only put it on TIDAL as far as streaming services go.
Well, and that's part of the thing with TIDAL too, is that they've advertised that several artists are gonna like put their albums out exclusively on TIDAL. That's a major selling point. I mean, if these artists can jump labels and just start releasing their music through TIDAL, okay, that's gonna be a major selling point. But that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I mean, with a flop this big, an artist isn't gonna want to put their music on there. I mean, yeah, stream per stream, it might pay more, but if they're not getting a lot of streams because no one's subscribing, then there's not money to be made there.
Well, and I mean, you only get the super high quality streaming files when you pay the $20 a month. Their $10 tier their $10 tier is not anything that we don't have through Rhapsody. I mean, I pay $15. I've said this many times. I paid $15. I pay $15 for Rhapsody, and I get 3 licenses with it. I have one. Brett has one so he can review albums for the show, and then I have one on my iPad. And we get. I mean, I haven't had any complaints at all with Rhapsody. I know I temporarily flirted with ditching Rhapsody for TIDAL just because I thought, if TIDAL pays more and it gets better quality, okay, that might be worth the trade-off. But no, I think I'm firmly a fan of Rhapsody, have been for the past several years, and I'm certainly don't think I'm switching anytime soon, especially for $20 a month.
Yeah,
that just adds up really quick. It was interesting, to see all of the TIDAL posts on Facebook, and they had the hashtag TIDAL for all, and then all of these comments that are like, "Oh, TIDAL for all asterisk if you have $20 a month to spare on streaming."
Yeah, I mean, and on paper it doesn't sound like that much. I know they're $5 a month, but $15 for 3 licenses versus $20 for 1 license.
Yeah.
Like if 3 people are all paying for the same Rhapsody account, that's $5 a month each.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad at all. But for one person to pay $20 and not get to put that on any other device.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's maybe they'll roll out with something like that down the road. I don't know, but yeah, if you're using TIDAL, I definitely would like to hear from you. I think that would be interesting. But that's enough newsy stuff. Let's get into the reviews. I'm happy to do reviews today because not only do I get to review an EP from a friend of ours, all the reviews I get to cover today, I have great things to say about each of them, which is nice given that we did the Nightwish episode a couple weeks ago, and we were just like, music's great, but yeah.
But everything they sing about is deplorable.
Yeah. It was, so it's nice to not have to be negative in this episode. So the first one, I'm going to do 2 EPs real quick. Natalie Rogers, who is the wife of a member of All Sons and Daughters, which is really cool. And I think that's just super fantastic. She has an EP coming out, and she is somebody that Brett and I have known personally for the past several years. We haven't seen her in a while just because she moved away to Nashville. All those dang good musicians going to Nashville these days. And she has her solo EP coming out. It's just called EP. And I was given a review copy of it, and I gotta say, I've had this now for about a month, and I have loved every time I've been able to play it. It is a wonderful EP. Brett and I were spoiled because she was one of the guitarists and singers for church. And
it was kind of awesome.
It was amazing because she has one of the best voices of anyone that I personally know. And it's especially true here on her album. There is no vocal there's no vocal special effects or glam anywhere on this album as far as I was able to hear. It's 4 songs, and it runs kind of this countrified folk vibe with a tiny dash of indie thrown in a couple of places. But it's super clean and crisp, not just instrumentally. I mean, it's mixed well and good as an EP should be, but the biggest selling point is just Natalie's voice. She sings so beautifully. She is so crisp and clean in the way she sings. You can understand every single word she says, even though she's got a bit of that Norah Jones-y twang to her. You can understand. Oh gosh, I could just go on and on and on about how much I love Natalie's voice, which is one of the selling points of this EP. You have Samuel, the opening track, which is a breakup song of sorts, and it's got a little bit more of a rocker vibe to it than the rest of the album. Hold On has a nice, has a bit of an indie, if that's a word, indie vibe to it. You and Me, easily my favorite track on the album. It's a beautiful piano-driven ballad where she is soft starting out, and then she moves in and lets the full depths of her voice come out and just belts out some really beautiful and intense stuff there near the end. And then the closing cut, Future Glory, is it's got a nice old school country throwback sound to it, but it's something that is not overpowering. I mean, you and I are not country fans in any serious sense.
Not at all.
We're not country fans at all. But I was able to listen to this and love it, and love every second of it as for a sound, just because there's enough there for you to claim it as country, but you could approach this from being a fan of indie, being a fan of folk or whatever, and you would enjoy it. She's straddled such a really good sound that's a very nice blend of her various influences. She's got a very Bob Dylan-esque songwriting style. Her voice, think Nora Jones or think a twangified Audrey Assad. Beautiful EP. It's a very strong EP, and I hope that this is the turnaround between the EP and her actual debut full-length album is not very long, because selfishly I want to hear more of this. I'm going to pin this at an 8 out of 10. I mean, I normally don't like to get that high as far as EPs go, but I mean, this is one of the stronger EPs that I've heard in a while. Most EPs I don't even comment on just because they're not all that great. This is a solid EP. It's solid from beginning to end. So you can pick that up on iTunes. It comes out this Tuesday, so you can pick it up. You can pre-order it if you're listening to the show on Monday. If you're listening to the show beyond Monday, go to iTunes, pick it up. It's only, I think, going to be like $5. You're not going to regret this. This is a solid EP. The other EP, King's Kaleidoscope, which, I mean, you should already know if you're a regular listener where we're going to stand on this. Live in Focus. They're one of many live EPs that they've done. They've took 7 songs from Becoming Who We Are, and they changed them up. They modified them. They added verses. They added extra instrumentation. They twanged them up not twanged them up. They changed them up.
I was about to say, I really hope that they didn't go country.
No. King's Kaleidoscope did not go country. I redact that statement, and it's anathema. No. But all of the reworkings that they've done are solid. They redo Dreams. They slightly redo Ache. Definitely redo All Creatures. Probably the biggest change is the 139 Redemption in Motion hybrid, and then I Know. 139, man, that song is beautifully rendition live. And then it goes into Redemption in Motion, which follows it on Becoming Who We Are. And it gets this really nice, like, flamenco-y salsa drum vibe going on. And I was listening to it, and I'm just like, ooh, where did this come from? I really like it. I didn't see this coming, and it just sounds really good. And then for I Know, they added a whole nother verse, which was awesome. And they start singing, and I'm just like, I've never heard this verse before. I have no memory of this verse. I like this verse. I like it a lot. And then it closes with Zion, which when I first saw the track list, I'm just like, dang it, this EP's gonna close on Zion. Like, I'm gonna cry. And yeah, it's beautiful. They add a couple of female background vocals to the chorus, and you're just like, hold back the tears, hold back the tears, hold back the tears, hold back the tears. Yeah. But no, this is solid. I don't know if it's still free on their website. It was free for the first week that it came out. If you grabbed it, great. If you didn't grab it, I don't know where you can get it. But if you can get it for free, or if you can buy it, buy it. I mean, like we have mentioned probably every episode, King's Kaleidoscope and their album Becoming Who We Are was our 2014 album of the year. This is a solid EP. It's a live EP, and meaning that you're not going to have the studio polish in some places, but even for a live EP, it's still mixed really, really well. So I'm gonna pin this at an 8 as well. So 2 really good EPs from my friend Natalie Rogers, and then from King's Kaleidoscope. So if you're looking for something shorter to check out, go into that. I need beer. Brett, talk.
This week, I reviewed the new Apocalyptica album.
I'm so excited to see them in a few weeks.
Shadowmaker, yes.
I'm so excited to see them.
They're coming towards the end of May to Lubbock, which is it's a decent drive from us, but not too bad.
It's about 2.5 hours.
But yeah, I'm really excited to see them, and I can't wait. And I'm really close to fangirling out right now. But Shadowmaker differs from every single other album in one very interesting way. In the past, they've released albums that are mostly pure instrumental. None of them are true. None of the main members are true vocalists. They have provided back vocals on some tracks. Usually, they'll just bring in a few guest vocalists to be on a few tracks. But this one is almost entirely vocalized with a guest vocalist named Frankie Perez, who I had never heard of before.
No idea.
But he did definitely have a good voice. It did blend very well with the band. One thing that did kind of let me down a little bit is I was expecting the standard Apocalyptica sort of sound, but this one was, of course, a bit different. And to me, I mean, it's not bad, but it focused more on the vocals than I would have liked to. Like, I listened to this wanting to hear cellos, but that's not what I got. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not at all what I was expecting.
So there are still cellos, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are still cellos.
Your statement had me worried there for a second.
There are still cellos, but better way to explain this, since previous albums were primarily instrumental, you listen to them and the cello parts are the main ones. In this one, most of the vocalized ones have the vocals stand out as the primary, and then the cellos are just sort of in the background for the ambiance, sort of like rhythm guitars and basses and that kind of stuff in standard bands, if that makes any sense. And
that makes sense, yeah.
First track I need to discuss is their title track, Shadowmaker. This is sort of a long epic of a song, very orchestral, one of the more orchestral of it, which is one of the reasons I like it so much.
Very much Apocalyptica-y.
Yes, very much Apocalyptica-y. Frankie Perez killed it in this song. Definitely the vocals. If I had to pick one song where his vocals perfectly blended with the band, it's that one.
Well, at least they got the title track right.
Yes. And then Slow Burn. At first, it freaked me out a little bit, made me uncomfortable, because there is another song that I really like by Atreyu called Slow Burn. And so I kept thinking about that song as I was listening to this one. Still a very good song in its own right. Not as good as Shadowmaker, but going down a little bit, Hole in My Soul, track 6. This is a very ballad, very slow, very beautiful. It showed what Frankie can do with his voice as far as just very clean and pure vocals. I mean, there is no screaming at all in this album that I can remember, but this one was definitely the cleanest of all of them. Riot Lights, track 8, was sort of the song that I was looking for. Very hard, very fast. I think it's like about 6.5 minutes. This is purely instrumental. The most Apocalyptica-y. That's a really hard word to say.
Add that to the dictionary.
Yes. Most Apocalyptica-y song on the album.
I think we'll title the episode that. Apocalyptica-y.
Yeah, I can go with that. But yeah, that was definitely the one that was just like, yes. And the standard edition ends with track 10, Sea Song. And then the last two songs are Till Death Do Us Part and Dead Man's Eyes. Till Death Do Us Part is instrumental, Dead Man's Eyes is vocalized.
How many instrumentals are on here?
I think there are 3. Riot Lights and Till Death Do Us Part are, at the moment, I can't remember what the other one is. Oh, I guess technically the first one, Seeds of Chaos, is, but it's just a really short introduction track that leads into Cold Blood, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But tracks 11 and 12, just kind of wondering why they were there. I mean, it definitely felt tacked on. It didn't really flow with the rest of the album good at all. I think it would have closed out better with just Sea Song and maybe blending those other 2 in with the previous tracks. Just a very weird way to end the album.
So the last 2 songs aren't bad. It's just their location.
Yeah, it just felt very weird. But despite the faults I found with it, I still have to give this an 8. It is still an excellent album. If you're looking for the classic Apocalyptica sound, you will not get it here. This is a very different sound. That does not mean it is not good, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely will have to give this a couple of plays before we go see Apocalyptica. I was actually talking with a friend of mine, one of my coworkers, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see Apocalyptica here in a couple of weeks. And he just looked at me like, who? And I'm like, oh, come on, you're a metalhead and you don't know who Apocalyptica is? Like,
what?
What's wrong with you? Like, I'm just like, how do you not know who Apocalyptica is but listen to hard rock and metal? Like, I don't understand.
Like, they're a worldwide sensation.
Yeah, they're kind of huge.
Yeah.
For good reason. They play freaking Metallica covers on the cello, people.
Well, to be fair, a lot of bands do that as well.
On cellos?
Yeah, there are a lot of string quartet Metallica covers.
none of them have been quite what Apocalyptica does.
Yeah,
though.
Apocalyptica is unique in that they busted out of that genre to make their own music. But
True.
But just in general, string quartets of anything. I mean, the string quartet albums can be found of just about everything now.
Well, yeah. I know about the various like string quartet ones, but those are unique releases. Like, there's not very many bands like Apocalyptica. Like, their stake is doing classical covers of metal hits. I mean,
Not anymore.
Not anymore, because that classical music though, that classical music. So you're giving it an 8. I'm curious. Is there any since we did so much with the Nightwish album, is there anything as far as like the worldview elements that are relevant, or is that not really?
If I remember correctly, I think I gave it a 6.5 for the worldview. I mean, most of the lyrics that I can remember off the top of my head were mainly dealing with regret over past mistakes. Not really anything theological. I mean, a lot of what they said is still right.
It wasn't Nightwish.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, okay, yeah, this is right. There's no mention of God really in it in good or bad ways.
Well, that's to be expected, I suppose.
So, I mean, 6.5, it was a decent worldview presented, but nothing.
It just didn't have.
Yeah, it was nothing like controversial or just yes, you really nailed that point.
A Christian could listen to it and go, yeah, because of the gospel, because of the truth of Christianity, we can be in agreement with to a certain extent here.
The closest one that got to bothering me, which really didn't bother me much, was "Hole in My Soul," where basically it's talking about a breakup, and it's saying there's a hole in my soul where you used to be.
I have another song playing in my head, and I'm not going to say it because then it's going to get in your head, and you're going to hate me. And
just say it.
There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. Sorry, I read that. I saw that. I'm just like, there's a hole in the bottom of the sea. That goes to show how ADD I am. Okay, so Josh Garrels. I have been super eager for Josh Garrels all year long, and then he put out his album, which, don't hold me to this, I think it's still on Noise Trade, and I think it's still free. You're gonna want this if you haven't got it. This is probably my favorite of Josh Garrels' stuff. Granted, I am not quite as familiar with his prior work as I am with Home, meaning that I just haven't have as much interaction with it. But of the stuff that stuck with me, this is the album to have stuck with me. His prior album, Love and War in the Sea and In Between, was a fantastic album. Oh my gosh, that album was great. It was very diverse, very eclectic, very experimental in a lot of ways. And then this time, he really slims it down. I don't want to say he kind of like reins it in and kind of calms it down per se, but he does a lot more with less. As a friend of mine commented to me about the album, it's very bluesy and very soulful, which I loved that. He has such a very deep, rustic, passionate voice that has just got so much grit and dirt to it that some of these songs, it just fits so well because there's such a blues and soulful vibe to it, particularly in the first two tracks, Born Again and Colors. Colors has got this real nice, slow, soulful groove to it, and it's so infectious. A Long Way, the third track, probably fits in best with Love and War and the Sea and In Between. Leviathan, the fourth track, man, you can get that song in some churches. That song is amazing. It takes quite a few passages from Psalms and from Job, and does a little bit of cut and paste worship, and uses some phrases from Psalms that you wouldn't expect to find in a worship song. The Arrow, track number 5. Dude reaches some freaky high notes. If I had the time to prepare samples for the stuff this week, I didn't have time to get clips done this week. I would have pulled a clip of the chorus from The Arrow, because oh my gosh, dude gets so freaking high up there. It's ridiculous. Heaven's Knife, track number 6, is either about his wife, or it could be about his wife, or it's about Adam and Eve. Either way, still a gorgeous track. Morning Light, great. Always Be is probably the weirdest song on the album. It's shorter than the others. It's more instrumental than not. it's easily my least favorite on the album, but it's still an entertaining song by any means. And then Home at Last, and then At the Table. Dang. So much good songwriting. At the Table has just got so much rich theology and doxology in it, as far as returning to Christ and always having a place at the Lord's table. Oh man, it is so good. And then it closes with a track called Benediction, which is what you think it is. It's a benediction of sorts. Dang, this album is beautiful. He's always been known for his I don't want to say whimsical. That's not the best choice of words, but his songwriting has always been a huge staple for him, and it's so very strong here on this album. This album is considerably more he's more conscious of his faith in this album than I'm aware of in his prior albums. I mean, Leviathan is a straightforward worship song of sorts. At the Table has quite a bit of Christian themes running through it. I mean, all throughout the album, his Christian faith seems to be considerably more conscious this time around, and this is easily one of the highlights of the year. This is easily a top 10 contender for me. I got to pin this at a 9. I would have pinned it a little bit higher, but Always Be it is okay of a track. It just doesn't hold up to the rest of the album. It's the only real weak point on the album. So if you can get this on Noise Trade, grab it. You will not be disappointed. You are going to love Josh Garrels' new album. Even if you've never heard of him before, just download it and give it to a listen. You will fall in love with it. So dead set, 9 out of 10 for me. Well, we did a lot of reviews this episode.
We sure did.
It's been a while since we've done 4 reviews in one episode.
I honestly don't remember the last time we have.
No, it definitely hasn't been this year because we're not behind in any technical sense as far as like playing catch up or anything, which that's nice. What's coming out next week?
Next week we have Blur's The Magic Whip.
Well, that only took 10 million years to get here.
Yeah. We have Shane and Shane's The Worship Initiative,
which, based off looking at the track list, looks like to be a worship album of covers. I saw some All Sons and Daughters songs in there, and so the idea of Shane and Shane covering All Sons and Daughters, okay, I'm interested, but sorry.
And we have Josh Groban's Stages.
I would love to take that, but I'm not familiar with any of his work.
Yeah, same here. And then this next album has already made history.
It has?
This is the first album by a country band that I have been excited to listen to.
Oh my gosh, stop the presses. You're excited for this?
Yes.
What?
I am, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because a while back, Zac Brown Band released a song called Heavy Is the Head, featuring Chris Cornell of Soundgarden.
Okay, that's right. We heard that the other day.
That song was not country. That song was Southern rock.
And it was really good, too.
Yes, it was awesome.
It was a fantastic song.
And so I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, did Zac Brown Band go Southern rock?
If they did.
They did, then this is going to be awesome. If not, I'm really curious, because it's called Jekyll and Hyde, which...
I don't know very many country albums with that.
Which first off, that's awesome. Secondly, I'm thinking...
It's kind of unorthodox.
Okay, who is Jekyll and Hyde? Jekyll and Hyde, two sides of the same coin. Dr. Jekyll, the calm, mild-mannered scientist. Mr. Hyde, the violent lunatic he turns into. So, I am theorizing that possibly there will be 2 different sounds in this album, the Jekyll and the Hyde, the Jekyll being their standard country sound, and the Hyde, hopefully, being the southern rock sound that was featured in Heavy Is the Head.
That's a fascinating theory.
I really hope I'm correct, but...
That's a fascinating theory.
But I'm not going to keep my hopes up too high.
That's still a fascinating theory. I did not think about it like that. I mean, I knew about Heavy Is the Head, but that's fascinating. I really hope this actually turns out well now.
I will be reviewing this next episode.
I really wish that Southern rock this year has just not come my way. I could really go for some Southern rock. Maybe I'll be able to listen to it later on down the road.
Yeah.
So we were gonna talk about 4 today, but we're out of time.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we're at 40.
Huh.
We went I'm fine with that. I mean, if we if we didn't have time to cover for today, oh well. I guess I can say, just as like a brief comment on it, like what happened with Samuel Penner was really unfortunate. Like that,
Yeah.
it was really unfortunate, and I also think it was really discouraging that for twice in a relatively short frame of time, For Today has not answered the theological objections that have been posed at them.
My main question with this whole thing is they said that the main reason why they kicked out Samuel Penner is because he needs to be at home with his family. He just had a lot of personal issues that took away from time on the road. So I'm just like, why kick him out? Other bands have members that do this all the time, and they just get a touring member. So why not just get a touring member instead of kicking him out of the band altogether?
Well, I think that's what they end up, I guess, having to do. But there's so much that we could have digested and could have broken down here. But I mean, we talked about, I think 2 episodes ago, about the article that former For Today guitarist Mike Reynolds posted about Maddie being in a cult. There was no response from that. The band did not acknowledge the existence of that article. And then in Samuel Penner's rather lengthy and in some cases a little over the top breakup post, like I couldn't think of a phrase for that. He cites theological differences as one of the reasons why they just decided kicking him out, which again, and For Today actually responded to the Samuel Penner post, but they did not address the theological element of it. So that's twice within really a month.
Yeah, with as much of an emphasis they have on ministry, even saying that his personal issues took away from the band's ministry, why not talk about where you stand theologically?
I mean, transparency as far as if you're going to take on ministerial aspects, like self-conscious ministerial aspects, you got to have clear theological stances.
I mean, for example, I don't like Joel Osteen or anything he stands for, but at least he tells you what he stands for.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, we had a lot to talk about with the For Today episode, but I mean, ultimately, like, as far as the whole For Today stuff, it sucks that it happened. There were definitely better ways for both sides to go about it. For Today, I think they do need to address the Mike Reynolds post and then the Samuel Penner thing. I think that they do need to have some theological clarification. I remember monitoring that post that For Today made with their response, and I think probably 1 out of every 2 or 3 comments was someone bringing out the fact that they didn't answer or address the theological objections that Samuel Penner made. So I think this is going to become a bit of an issue for the band if they don't address it soon. Yeah, this sucked for both parties. Hopefully For Today won't not do this again in the way that they did it, because it could have gone down better for both sides.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the shortest main course ever. Like,
Huzzah.
Shortest main course ever. Brett, you got any recos for this week?
I think not. My reco is Sierra Nevada Hop Hunter.
How is it? I know you've been sipping on it. Is it good?
It is a really, really good IPA, and it's interesting. It's very hoppy, but it's not that bitter. And now, when I say this, I don't mean what I usually mean when I say a hoppy beer, but it's not bitter in that it's the citrusy kinds of hops. No, it's the standard piney, sort of woodsy hop flavor, but it's not that bitter.
So it's like a torpedo, just not as pungent.
Basically, and I think one of the main reasons might be because the big deal about this is that they use distilled hop oil in the creation of it.
That's becoming a lot more popular these days.
And I've never had a beer with distilled hop oil in it before.
I think you have. Like, I think Tanner, one of the hosts of the Reformed Pubcast, he talks about this pretty often, how most breweries are switching to that. They're just not, we're switching to this.
But definitely tastes different than any other IPA I've ever had.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Reco for me this week. Geez, what do I reco? I reco Natalie Rogers EP. Not just because it is a good EP, but just because I know her. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. Great musician. Great person to be around. Go out and buy it. Go out and buy her EP. I highly recommend it. It's a It's great. Second reco, dang, we've talked a lot about beer this episode. Like,
yes, we have.
More so than we have in the past. I am going to reco Deschutes Obsidian Stout, just because I'm a big Deschutes fanboy. And
You don't say.
yeah, I'm a giant Deschutes fanboy. They're usually my favorite brewery.
Sam Adams.
Sam Adams is fine, but yeah, man, y'all got nothing on Deschutes.
We have like 60 more beers than y'all do.
Well, that's fine, but we have fresh squeezed.
We have cherry wheat.
Of all the examples to pull, you pull that one. That one was awful.
Yeah, so that one was awful.
That one was terrible. No, Deschutes Obsidian Stout. It was the first stout that I ever had. I was drinking it during the show today. Man, it's really good, really sweet. It's such a good stout. It's holding me over until November rolls around, whenever Amarillo stores start picking back up Founder's Breakfast Stout.
Yes.
That can't get here fast enough.
If you have a bottle of Founder's Breakfast Stout you wouldn't mind sharing with us, email us and we'll send you our address.
Yeah, if you want to send us a bottle of Founder's Breakfast Stout, we would love you forever.
Indeed.
We would love you for a very...
And we will pay you upwards of $10 million per bottle.
You will pay you upwards, because I don't have that much money.
Neither do I.
Well, great. So we're lying to our listeners.
I can take out a loan.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. We want to take time as every episode to mention the gospel and to talk about like why the gospel grounds and drives everything that we do. Even though we really didn't get into the whole for today, whatever, like we said that we were going to, because we reviewed quite a few albums this episode. The gospel requires theological clarity, and the gospel requires theological precision, because the gospel makes certain claims that requires it to be good news. God has come in the flesh. He lived a perfect life in our place. He died a substitutionary death. He was our substitute in his death. He was buried. He rose again that we might be raised with him and be justified before God forever. There requires a precision that is necessary for the gospel to be the good news that has changed my life and Brett's life and the lives of countless other Christians. And it's the reason why we do this. It's the lens through which we approach these topics. It's the method through which we look at the worldview content of the music that we listen to. The gospel is the good news that the music industry desperately needs. And as much as we're able to, we want to talk about the gospel and link it to everything, because the gospel impacts everything. There's not an area of the things that we talk about that the gospel is not relevant. And so we definitely want to mention that every episode. Well, this episode didn't really go as planned, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I still think it was good.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all. If you want to contact us, you can find us on Facebook. Search for Another Ascending Lark. You can find us on Twitter at AALblog. You can send us an email at anotherascendinglark@gmail.com. And, of course, anotherascendinglark.com, where you can listen to the show there. You can read other really cool stuff. It's just a really cool place to go. Next week, we haven't done a movie review since, like, episode... What was it, the 5th episode we ever did, where we did Believe Me?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And oh my gosh, it just occurred to me that we're finally out of the 20s, like as far as episodes go. We're finally past the 20s.
Woo-woo.
I didn't think we were ever getting out of the 20s. So the first time in 25 episodes, we're going to be doing a film review, and it's going to be on the new Avengers, Age of Ultron. We've got tickets for that. We're going to go see it, and then...
The night it's released.
At like 7 p.m., so it's not a midnight release. And so we'll definitely be talking about and reviewing the new Avengers movie, just to kind of take a break, I guess, from the heavy music stuff. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then maybe you shouldn't listen to next week, but you should still listen anyway. We'd like it when you listen to our show, but you should go see it if you can. We are definitely going to talk about it next week, and until then, we guys hope you have a wonderful week.